adversity should not be the occasion of self-pity, When we indulge ourselves in self-pity, it is almost inevitably traceable to the fact that we are unprepared to acknowledge that God is sovereign over all these things. So, for example, if you consider the life of Joseph, if Joseph had merely focused on all of the treachery that had led up to his position in Egypt, he would have been one miserable character with whom to spend time, wouldn't he? He would have had reason to curse his father for getting him the jolly coat in the first place. I didn't ask for the coat. What in the world was he giving me that dumb coat for, he could have said. All of his life, the coat is the problem. My father's the problem. The father, the coat, the father, everything. That messed my entire life up. Who would have thought that a coat could destroy your life? And my brothers, yeah, sure, I had a few dreams. I said, they were going to bow down to me, but they were, And why would they put me in that pit? Miserable rascals that they are, every last one of them. I hate my brothers. I hate everything about them. I hope I never see them again in my life. Oh, look, here come my brothers. Do you remember what he says to his brothers? Because they weep at his self-disclosure. When he comes out from underneath his Egyptian mask, as it were, and he says, ego, I, me. I'm Joseph. And they began to weep. And he says to them, do not be distressed or angry with yourselves. Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves. Why not? My times are in God's hands. For God sent me before you to preserve your life. Do you get that? You malevolently determined to take my life on account of your jealousy. On account of the intervention of one of you, my life was spared, and I have lived separate from you and separate from my father for all these years. But I want you to know that I don't harbor any bitterness against you. I don't harbor any bitterness against you for the time I spent in jail. Don't be distressed. Don't be angry with yourselves. God sent me before you to preserve your lives. God sent me before you to preserve a remnant. And then he says, so it wasn't you who sent me here, but God. But it was them that sent him there. They sold him into slavery. Yeah. But God overruled all of their individual actions without ever once violating their freedom. Their jealousy was a real jealousy. They weren't programmed to be jealous. Their animosity was a real animosity. And in the vastness of the purposes of God, he was orchestrating things so as to preserve a remnant for himself and a people who would be there in Egypt. It's amazing, isn't it? You see, there's a lesson in this as well, and it is this, that the providences of God are seldom self-interpreting. Do you get that? The providences of God are seldom self-interpreting. So when you and I are going through things, if we are constantly, immediately saying, how does this affect me? What does this mean to me? How can I explain this in terms of the immediate and the here and now? We will seldom get it right. Joseph could never have got it right when he was in that pit. If he started to try and explain the providence of God to himself in the midst of all of that animosity. When he was stripped naked and put up in front of the people before he was taken into the home of Potiphar. When he was on the receiving end of the seducing glances and insinuations of Potiphar's wife. When he ended up in the jail, maligned and accused and innocent. What is it allows somebody who lives a life like that to stand up and greet his brothers and say, don't be distressed, don't be angry with yourselves. What does it allow somebody to do that? He understands, my times are in your hands. As I have lived my own life and faced some of my own challenges and continue to do as well, I have to remind myself on a regular basis that the God who is involved, profoundly involved in the life cycle of a sparrow is actually committed to my life as well, and that he will sustain me and watch over me in the face of everything. There are a few funerals that I've done, I guess it's funeral morning for me, but there are a few funerals I've done that have stood out for me so much as the funeral that I did of a lady probably 20 years ago or more. She was a young lady. She died before she was 40. She had a disease that those of you who are going to be medics will understand, that I don't understand, but it essentially was some kind of epidermal disease that began to close down her existence. Her hands, her face, everything was finally turned in, and it essentially in her 30s squeezed the life out of her. She was from a Roman Catholic family, a big family. She had come to trust in Jesus. She discovered that religion didn't have the answer, but that Jesus set her free. And she left a letter that she wanted me to have so that on the occasion of her funeral, I would be able to tell her family how she had viewed the way in which her life had unfolded and the way in which it had been taken away from her. And this is the verse that she wanted me to read. Job chapter 10, verse 12. You gave me life and showed kindness, and in your providence watched over my spirit. You gave me life and showed kindness, and in your providence watched over my spirit. How'd she get there? My times are in your hands. Do you have a moment for a now what? Let me give you a now what, whether you have a moment or not. What? My times are in your hands. Therefore, I'm not cast around on the sea of chance. I'm not held in the grip of blind deterministic forces. I'm being trained in the school of God's providence. That's the what. So what? Prosperity should not be the occasion of pride. Anxiety should not be the occasion of despair. And adversity should not be allowed to overturn us. Now what? Here we go. 1, there is a responsibility that we have to face up to. Because some of you are beginning already to say to yourself, well, in that case, I've got nothing to do with anything at all. Somehow or another, this notion of God's sovereignty has exempted me from everything, as if somehow or another it relieves me of all responsibility. No, that's wrong. Although the Lord overrules all things according to his purpose, we are still responsible to him for all that we are and all that we do. Therefore, we are responsible to make sensible decisions. We are responsible to be righteous in our planning. We are responsible to be involved in the problems of our world. A man's heart devises his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Therefore, we are to look ahead. We're to make plans. We're to put our affairs in order, and we are always to be in submission to his will.